My pleasure to introduce an old dear friend of mine. Used to work for the 930 Club for many years. Publishes his own magazine called Deluded. He's been in many bands. As a matter of fact, was an inspiration to me for throwing these nights together. Let me introduce to you James Riley, aka Mr. Jimijam. Round of applause!
Thanks, Umberto. Hello, everybody. Let's give it up for all the other poets. This first one's dedicated to the Virginia legislator that just made it legal to walk around with your gun. It's called Murder on Mine. I got murder on mine. Murder on the TV all the time. Murder by occupation, serial killer fascination, liberal condemnation, conservative admiration, criminal aggravation. NRA ranting, guns don't kill, people do. But I bet you wouldn't say that if you had one pointed at you, a barrel blue and cold, taking away your chance to grow old. Because like Leonard Skinner used to sing, ain't no gun good for nothing but putting a man 6 feet in a hole. Because we got murder on mine, murder on the TV all the time, genocide, homicide, and suicide. Everyone hides a killer on the inside. Some do it for love, some do it out of hate, some do it because they think it's great. Can you relate? God said, thou shalt not kill, but it's too bad he gave us free will. Because it only takes a second to make the wrong choice and let that little voice in your head convince you to pull the trigger and shoot someone dead. Because somewhere, someone's got murder on mine, murder on the TV all the time, guns and violence, complicit silence, and the lies we invent to justify our consent of the double standards and the double talk. Keep the pothead in jail, but let the killer walk. So pass the buck and pass the shame. Don't give a fuck until it's your name in the obituaries, because life is that scary, so you better be wary and watch your back. Because somewhere, someplace, someone's got murder on mine. Murder on the TV all the time. It's no wonder crime is at an all-time high, and any second now could be your turn to die. And you may never know why. You will never get a chance to say goodbye to your friends and families and others who mean something to you. What you gonna do? Because it could happen to you. Because when someone's got murder on mine, there's no turning back. When your time is up, your time is up. I got murder on mine, murder on the TV all the time. The only time I ever hate God is when I have to go to the bathroom. This is called the toilet song. The electric drone of the modern world digitally processed its existence into the core of my being. The data disturbed the organic flow of life like the inane beat of some forgotten pop song. Circulating through my nervous system, I reeled from the horror of its logic. Everything in its place, nothing straying from the natural collective order. 2 + 2 = 4 at all times. I couldn't take it, I can't take it, I won't take it. But time beats me down like a master beats a slave as the flow of time just continues. No purpose, no meaning, just endlessly marching. No expectations, no regrets, no hopes. Just micro-unit upon micro-unit, building one after another into a unit of time. Second by minute, by hour, by day, by week, by month, by year, by decade, by century, by eon, ad infinitum. The same goddamn story since the beginning of time. And speaking of time, created by God, fuck him. Yeah! I was sitting on the toilet, and everybody knows that feeling, because everybody, I mean everybody, sits on the fucking toilet. I was feeling them turds just falling out of my ass, and I was sitting there thinking to myself, what the fuck was God thinking when he created defecation? It is just so foul. You find yourself sitting on some sort of porcelain contraption, see porcelain God reference, with your clothes around your feet, and this odious, odoriferous substance excretes itself out of your rectum, and depending on your diet, it comes in several varieties, just like ice cream at your neighborhood Baskin-Robbins. It clings, clumps, drips in all sorts of disgusting ways. Then one must use some sort of paper product to wipe away the aforementioned substance from one's rectal area, and hoping you leave no dingleberries. There's nothing worse than being with some hoochie and you're getting busy, as they say, and your hand goes roaming and you feel some dingleberries. Talk about your real monsters. So anyways, back to the point of this articulation. What the fuck was God thinking when he said, "Let there be defecation"? I personally cannot wait till I'm walking up to them pearly gates in St. Peter so I can ask God, "Yo, gee, what the fuck is up with taking a shit? Couldn't you thought of something better?" Thank you. This is a true story. My so-called surreal life. The demon alcohol began its insidious occupation of my common sense. It split my dignity in half with its surgeon-like precision as I found myself reveling with the damned in an orgiastic attempt to outdo the competition and who could be the most decadent, the most jaded. I found myself laughing at my sordid past of prostitution and moral degradation. One man confessed to me how he murdered a John who videotaped him while he was incapacitated on drugs, during which the sick fuck rammed a lit candle up his ass. So the guy waited every night for 2 months across the street from the John's house, where he'd watch him engage in the same routine every evening as he sat from his little spot behind the trash can, seething in the ugliness of his memories. He'd watch the guys, he would say hello to the neighbors and act so normal. He then waited for it to be a rainy night, and as the John was placing his key in the front door, he ran up with an empty wine bottle and smashed it across his head. The guy fell into the doorway, and the memories clouded his mind, and began pounding and pounding and pounding, until he realized he got blood on his favorite Pink Floyd shirt that he got at a concert that his older brother's best friend had bought him after he sucked his dick in his truck as they drove to the concert. He says he remembers being shook awake by this cop who said, "It was okay. Was there anybody he could call?" Because they thought it would be best if he took a little vacation and got out of town for a while. Because they understood. They saw the video of what he did, and no, he couldn't see it. Because they didn't think he should see it, and they would want him to relive it. And if he would just get out of town for a while, everything would be okay. I sat stunned with my brand new glass pipe that made me think of mermaids that I had bought on Haight Street while shopping with one of my favorite friends, Joe, that afternoon. I was like, wow. It made my horror scares seem so inconsequential. I wanted to hold him and caress him with my magic touch to show him that everything could be beautiful if you want it to be. We walked out Witness Alley, and I reached out to hug and kiss him, and I could feel his soul melt, but at the same time I felt it freeze as his built-in ego smasher kicked in to destroy the moments. But before I could bat my eye, the next broken soul approached me to dig my herb. He told me he loved death metal, particularly Sepultura. I recounted my Max Cavalera story from when I stagehand for them at the fabulous 930 Club about what a rude and inconsiderate pussy-whipped asshole he was. The alcohol buzz was beginning to bring the junkie in me out. I asked about scoring some powder cocaine, and all the drug queens seemed perplexed that I wanted cocaine. We only do crystal. The death metal guy assured me that his friend Cuban George could supply us with what we needed. He was kind of cute, or so I thought. You know what kind of tricks fag bar lighting can play on you. But anyway, I decided to play along. We left a hole in the wall and walked down to Mission. We were having this conversation, and I was ready, even though it was probably alcohol speaking, I was ready to get raw with him. We approached this bus stand with Super Soul Sister and her Heat Man were running the crash shack. The Heat Man jumped up and said, "You better not be cops!" I laughed and said, "I was just a crazy-ass faggot and I want some powder cocaine." I had my money ready because I know all about the street hustle. I showed 80 bucks and what can I get? Soul Sister asked again if we was cops. I said I was just an East Coast freak looking for a rush. She handed me a crumpled up piece of brown paper towel filled with evidently what was crack. It was at this moment I realized in my drunken idiocy that my new friend was a full-on needle-using speed freak. As I noticed in the moonlight, he had junkie sores on his face and hands. I silently cursed myself as I realized it was time to go, and somehow I had to politely ditch this fool. He kept suggesting we go to a sex joint, but I was silently plodding away. We walked down Folsom, and then we popped into some apartment building's lobby. I split the bag and began to try to crush my share because my junkie wanted something up my nose. Then out of the corner of my eye, and in like 30 seconds, I realized he had a needle in his hand and a plastic bag that held his eyepiece. He removed him, crushed his half of the cracked rocks into it, then he pulled his dick out, urinated into the bag. Next he stuck the needle in the bag, drew up the fluid to fill the needle, then he jacked out his arm, plunged a syringe in, let it fill with blood, and he plunged it back in. I watched in horror and waited frozen as my mind tried to justify my voyeurism. I said I must go lie down. He said, let's go to my friend's loft and dress up like women and fucky sucky. I told some lie about having to see my lawyer in the morning and I had to go home now. Then he said, I hope this doesn't sound too tacky, but could you give me a few dollars? I surreptitiously found a 20 and said, like I was stupid or something, is this enough? Then I ran down the street madly, thanking God for not letting me get too carried away. I reached my friend's apartment, unlocked the door, ran upstairs, turned on the television, and the Wild Wild West just happened to be on. I thought how ironic and picked up a pin. Thank you very much.